This is from Natural News. Came out yesterday. Alert: federal government may seize and shut down all internet sites that don't push vaccines during a national emergency pandemic. If you aren't saving off articles, downloading important MP3 audio files, and printing off vital information that might save your life in a pandemic outbreak, you may soon find yourself completely cut off from all holistic, all alternative information on the web. Under an executive order signed by that guy in 2012, the U.S. federal government now has the authority to seize and shut down all private websites which do not promote vaccines and pharmaceuticals. During the coming Ebola pandemic, the government expects to sweep across America. If you aren't making alternative plans to have access to life-saving information about antiviral, herbal remedies, and immune-boosting solutions, you can fully expect to be completely cut off from those information sources of a national pandemic emergency is declared. That's why I urge you to go to biodefense.com now while you still can, and download the MP3 files to your local computer or mobile device so you can hear them later. Episodes 6 and 7 will be posted this week, and they contain life-saving information about natural antiviral herbal remedies and Chinese medicine formulas that have conquered plagues. And this is biodefense.com. Again, it's through National News by Mike Adams, and there are the videos on the right-hand side. They're long. I've only listened to the first one, but they're pretty damn good. So I'll leave a link to this site with the videos on it down below also. Right, going back to that article. Natural News launches its own Diaspora pod at share.naturalnews.com. To aid in saving lives and keeping the public informed, Natural News has set up an offshore information distribution service that allows you to join immediately. It's like an uncensored Facebook, based on servers hosted in Germany, and is completely immune to illegal censorship efforts taken by the U.S. government under a state of martial law. Sign up now at share.naturalnews.com. The backup IP address to reach that site is 148.251.159.8. So even if the U.S. government takes down DNS servers and blocks the naturalnews.com domain in an effort to make sure people can't access life-saving information about antiviral herbal medicine, you can still reach our share site at http://148.251.159.8. Our main website, naturalnews.com, can be reached in an emergency at http://108.168.157.185. Write down these IP addresses and store them on a paper in a safe place. This is your only way to reach us if the government seizes or blocks the DNS registry. July 6, 2012. Declares the power to seize private facilities and control all communications. On July 6, 2012, the President signed an executive order that's stunning in its overreaching authority. The order claims total federal authority over all communications, including granting the government the ability to seize private facilities such as web server farms, amateur radios, printing presses, and all forms of communication. In response to the signing of the order, the Electronic Privacy Information Center issued this dire warning. The White House has released a new executive order seeking to ensure the continuity of government communications during a national emergency. The executive order grants new powers to the Department of Homeland Security, including the ability to collect certain public communications information. Under the executive order, the White House has also granted the department the authority to seize private facilities when necessary, effectively shutting down or limiting civilian communications. As just one small example of the government's declared authority to seize and control all forms of communication, the executive order signed by the President says, word for word, that the government is now granted these powers: the extension, discontinuance, or reduction of common carrier facilities or services, the control of common carrier rates, charges, practices, and classifications, the construction, authorization, activation, deactivation, or closing of radio stations, services, and facilities, the assignment of radio frequencies to FCC licensees, the investigation of violations of pertinent law. In covering the signing of this executive order, RT ran with the headline and gives himself control of all communication systems in America. RT goes on to report, under the U.S. President quietly signing his name to an executive order on Friday, allowing the White House to control all private communications in the country in the name of national security, the powers he provides to himself and the federal government under the latest order are among the most far-reaching yet of any of his executive decisions. Why the government will seize and shut down sites that attempt to teach people the truth about life-saving antiviral herbal medicine. In the last few days, the U.S. government purchased 160,000 Ebola hazmat suits in anticipation of an Ebola outbreak sweeping through U.S. cities. Shortly after that, the CDC issued a nationwide alert to U.S. hospitals, urging them to get prepared against an Ebola outbreak. The U.S. government, CDC, and FDA have always used pandemics to promote vaccines and push the profit interests of pharmaceutical corporations. Any discussion of natural remedies, antiviral herbal medications, and non-pharmaceutical defenses against Ebola are seen as a threat to the profit interests of the drug companies. Sites like biodefense.com, which offers life-saving free information to the world about natural antivirals, episode 6 coming shortly will detail a full list, are seen as harming the profits of the drug companies and interfering with the government's plan to force the population to trust only vaccines, to the exclusion of all else. Under the executive order signed in 2012, the federal government can seize and shut down all websites that do not fall in line and promote the experimental Ebola vaccines the government will predictably roll out during a national pandemic. The voices of all those who do not bow down to Big Pharma and advocate vaccines will be silenced. The authority to do this is already codified in U.S. law. Join the Natural News Diaspora pod to stay informed, even when the government attempts to censor the truth. This is why Natural News has launched its own Diaspora pod found at share.naturalnews.com. Diaspora is an open-source, decentralized information network that's rapidly becoming the go-to destination for people leaving Facebook. Diaspora is organized in pods hosted on servers all around the world. When Natural News previously announced Diaspora, so many thousands of people signed up that we had to launch our own hosted pod in order to prepare for the rush of new users. Now our new pod is up and running in Germany, and if you want to stay plugged into the truth during the global pandemic crisis that's exploding right now, you need to join the Natural News Diaspora pod right now. Simply go to share.naturalnews.com and sign up. Diaspora is 100% uncensored, so once you're there, you will see every breaking news story announced by Natural News and any other source you choose to follow. The backup IP address to our Diaspora pod is 148.251.159.8. Be sure to keep this number handy as you can type it into any browser to reach us, even if the DNS servers are seized by the government or taken down by cyber attacks. Why I'm urging all alternative news sources to join Diaspora. I'm also openly calling for all alternative news media, i.e. truth media, websites to get moving with Diaspora. They can either join the Natural News pod, set up their own pod, or join another existing pod that's outside the USA. Those of you reading this who are fans of other truth-telling websites like SHTFplan.com, TruthStream Media, The Organic Prepper, No More Fake News, The Economic Collapse Blog, Survival Blog, Recon Prepper, etc., should urge those website owners to get moving with Diaspora immediately. Time is running out for setting up communication backup plans. This may be the only backup publishing channel we have left if Obama declares a national If he declares a national emergency and invokes the executive orders he's already signed. I also urge readers to subscribe to my free email newsletter using the form below this article. We will continue to send emails even if we are taken offline. And here I signed up for the Diaspora. So this is the feed. Looks like a Facebook feed. I haven't gone in and really done anything yet. I just signed up for it a couple minutes ago. But there's a lot of, real information on here, it looks like, and a good amount of people commenting. I'll go back in and check it out for real later. Why governments don't want people to learn how to protect themselves. Billions of lives are at stake around the world, and the governments of the world seem to deliberately want as many people to die as possible in a pandemic, which is precisely why no government will dare test colloidal silver, medicinal herbs, or traditional Chinese medicine as an Ebola treatment. Many observers are convinced the governments don't want to stop Ebola, which is precisely why the international response has deliberately been slow, practically guaranteeing a continued explosion of the pandemic. Ebola, AIDS manufactured by Western Pharmaceuticals, U.S. Department of Defense, declares a headline of a fascinating news story authored by a Liberian scientist. That story goes on to explain that Ebola is a genetically modified organism, GMO. Testing has been secretly taking place in Africa. The World Health Organization and several other UN agencies have been implicated in selecting and enticing African countries to participate in the testing events, promoting vaccinations and pursuing various testing regimens, the author declares. He continues by warning, African leaders and African countries need to take the lead in defending babies, children, African women, African men, and the elderly. These citizens do not deserve to be used as guinea pigs. If he's right, and if the U.S. government is deliberately using African children and adults as human guinea pigs to test a genetically engineered bioweapon, do you really think that that same government won't shut down a few web servers that are trying to tell people the truth? Urgent action items. Stay informed. Learn the truth now at biodefense.com and download the free MP3 audio files offered there. More episodes being released this week. Join the National News Diaspora pod at share.naturalnews.com. Subscribe to our email newsletter below. Write down the emergency IP address to reach naturalnews.com. http 108.168.157.185. Urge other alternative news websites to join or launch their own Diaspora pods. As long as I am personally alive and functioning, I will do everything in my power to reach you with life-saving information about antiviral herbal medicines, immune-boosting strategies, and way to protect yourself from toxic vaccine ingredients. But you have to do your part and get signed up for these various communications or you'll be cut off in a national emergency. I agree with like 99% of that. I will put all the links down below that he provides, and I urge you to sign up to that Diaspora pod. It's really easy. Just put in your email address and create a username password. There's nothing to it. And biodefense.com, again, has those videos. I think there's 6 up there now, or 5 up there now, and 6 and 7 are going to go on there. And they're easily downloadable. And Mike Adams has been a good source of information in the past, as has Natural News. So check it out, and let's hope this thing doesn't blow up like we all think it will.